Welcome to Dice Control Dojo. I'm Phil, practicing daily and sharing tips so we can all do better at the craps table. Today, we're talking about the warm-up of your hands. We're going to talk about how to warm up your hands, how to do your shoulders and get them warmed up, and at the table. What does that look like when you're at the table? So let's start right off. Every day, I do 3 minutes of warm up before I throw. And this is something you should be doing when you're practicing warming up and also when you're practicing at the casino. So the first thing I like to do is I warm up my hands by rubbing them up. These are all practices that I pulled out from piano rehearsal people, occupational therapy websites on what's the best way to get your hands warmed up. So the first thing I like to do is warm up my hands. I am in the Northeast and it's winter time or fall, so at 4:30 in the morning when I come out here and practice, it is cold. So I have to make sure my hands are not cold. When you're at a casino, it is very important that your hands don't get cold. I like to, when I walk into a casino, no matter where I am, I go right to the bathroom. I go to the bathroom so that I don't have to excuse myself in the middle of a roll or at the table. And then I wash my hands in nice warm water. I put a lot of soap on there. Let's get everything nice and clean. And then that way I'm starting the day fresh. There's a lot of times you can get grease and grime and stuff on your hands, and it's important that you're making sure you're getting rid of that stuff starting fresh. So in the morning when I come, I wash my hands in warm water before I come out here. Then I rub my hands together, get them nice and warmed up. And once they're warm, then I do some wrist stretches. Now my wrist stretches are, I put my fingers out like this, and then I relax. And I put them out, and I relax. And I put them out, and I relax. So this is one exercise on stretching those fingers and relaxing like that. I also like to pull my wrists out like this. I'll pull it out and then down, up and then down. As you do with further videos when you're seeing, we're not going to be using our wrists at all, but it's also important that your wrists are loosened up so that when you relax those wrists on the throw and you're using your large muscle mass, that the wrists is loosened and warmed up. So I do a lot of loosening up on the wrist to make sure that it's nice and loose. Now this should only take about 3 minutes. I'm over exaggerating this for the show, but after you do that, I like to pull out the fingers. My knuckles get all clogged up, and I want to make sure they're nice and loose like that. I'm cracking them, just making sure they're nice and loose. Then I do the wrist circles. You want to get these wrist you want to make sure this wrist is nice and loose and everything is nice and loose. So do that. I also like to shake them off. So when I'm at the getting ready to go, I shake my hands. They should be ready to go. The last thing that you can do is, and if you're practicing every day in an hour a day, or you're following the way I'm doing things, your hand's going to be tired, especially in if you're on the computer all day. So a nice massage to start off in the morning, just getting these wrists, because remember, this is when you're picking up these dice, your muscle memory has to be the same every single time. So if your muscles are a little tighter, it's going to be a different grip than if your muscles are loose. So a little manipulation here, getting your nice and loose, massaging those fingers, making sure they're nice and loose. Remember, you're using these 3 fingers, so all these muscles have to be loosened up. You're trying to get a fine grip with that, and then you want to make sure your grip is nice and relaxed. So in order to manipulate these muscles, these small muscle masses, You have to make sure they're warmed up. Now, I also like to warm up the shoulder, because you don't just want to start throwing and your shoulder isn't loosened up. I had shoulder surgery on here. I was a hockey player and shredded my shoulder, so I have to make sure my shoulder is warmed up. I do a lot of stretches like this just to make sure they're good, making sure I'm not hitting anything, making sure that your muscles are completely loose while you're getting ready. Now, your shoulder and your upper muscles, if you think about it, those are the only thing I want you working on. These muscles right here are the only muscles that are going to throw those dice. It's not going to be your wrist. It's not going to be your forearm. It's going to be your upper body, your mass here. This is what's throwing the dice. It's just this muscle mass, right? Nothing else. Everything else is going to work out for itself. Now, this is the way I throw them, remember. You may be doing something different, but I'm just showing you how I'm doing it and how my coaches, my mentors pay attention to our structure of throwing to make sure I'm on the same page with my coaches. I'm on the same page with my mentors on throwing. If they see something different, they're going to call me out on it. If you want to give me feedback on my warm-ups, I appreciate it. What things do you do during a warm-up? Do you warm up? And do you think it's important to warm up? Now, after I got my shoulder all ready to go, now I can work into my practices. But what do you do at the casino? You're at a casino, and say you get done throwing, and it's going to go all the way around. So that may be, what, a half hour, an hour? It could be 10 minutes. You don't want to get cold. So what do you do with your hands to keep warm? So once again, you want to pay attention to that. While you're seeing the other dice going on, you're keeping your hands moving. You may grab some chips. What does a chip look like? Can you practice picking up chips in your hand? 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. Can you keep your hands moving? What does that look like? You want to keep your hands tight and moving without being obvious, right? You don't want to sit there and go, oh, because you got a lot of people here, and you don't want to show that you're a dice control thrower to the whole world. You just want to stay warm. So what do? When I'm at a table, I'm staying loose, making sure my back is loose, stepping away back from the table so you can make sure your arm is manipulated and it's warmed up. And then more importantly, keep that massaging on your fingers and your hands. See, I can do this here while I'm paying attention. I can just keep my hands moving just to keep them nice and warm. Now, as you don't have to do that if you have a bunch of people coming around the horn here. If you're 2 or 3 people away, that's when you can start warming up again. You don't have to keep them warm the entire time, but you should be keeping your hands going. A lot of warm up, a lot of practice, a lot of manipulating. Keep your hands moving. Also, too, make sure you're keeping your hands clean. These hands should be clean at all times. We said you wash your hands, but watch out when you get a drink. When you go get a drink, are you picking it up by your right hand? If you're right-handed, I'm lefty. Am I picking up with my left hand? Of course I am. So now it's wet. Now it's moist. Do I have to dry it off? What does that look like? You got to have a plan at home so that when you're in the casino and all the lights and all the people and all the casino and all the things are going on, you are doing the same thing each time. That way, when you're grabbing that dice, they're not feeling a little weird, right? You want to keep it clean. You want to keep your hands manipulated, and you want to keep them nice and loose. So let's sum up our plan today. We talked about how we warm up our hands each and every day when we practice. We discussed the shoulder, making sure that's loose with some different types of stretches that I do. I just kind of do this one. I wheel, but if I'm at the casino, I'm making sure I'm loose. I'm stepping back so that I can loosen it up a little bit. And then lastly, on the table, you want to keep your hands nice and ready to go, because you don't want to sit after an hour and get up there and grab the dice, and it's not feeling the same way it did an hour ago or a half hour ago when you first had it. So you want to make sure your hands and your muscles are consistently warmed up and ready to go. So just remember, the best betting strategy is to throw for a long time. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about dice control tracking. So how do I keep track of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it? So stay tuned for tomorrow's dice color and control tracking.